Morning. I'm Scott Schaefer, your host. This is The Theory of Nothing. Today is Friday, May 3rd, 2019. And what is going on in the world? The same thing that has been going on in the world since near 2008, 2009. Potentially, I would have said at one point, and I have in other videos, that it's been going on through all of time and all of existence. And to some truth to that is, I feel that our consciousness is traversing through multiple dimensions and multiple universes, multiple realities. Hands down, that is my stance on it. Now, do I believe God is inducing us to do that? No. I think that the creative consciousness, the creative force behind our creation, our existence, to the nth degree, which we cannot quantify or define in a textbook, as those are just stories to keep the monkeys in check, to stop us from flinging feces at each other and killing and raping each other and stealing each other's shit and just being assholes. Those who were in charge and not being able to maintain control had to create stories and references to put fear beyond death into everyone's heart and mind. Ergo, every Bible on the planet, and I'm using the English term for it, every religion, every Bible was indoctrinated into the masses, different per different cultures, but all relating to the same subject matter at the end of the day, to put death after life fear into everyone. Because they realize that when the conscious becomes aware and awakened of its presence in whichever realm it is in, and it truly understands and discerns that it is only merely residing in a vessel, in a mechanical structure that, at least in earth-type based realms, needs food and water and air to function, to survive. But when conscious becomes this aware that we're merely a component of something greater, something larger, and we're just trapped, it becomes dangerous to society from many perspectives. The God complex, as I call it. Not everyone, but a lot of people, if aware that reality is artificial and we are conscious, are more than the components of the structure, can tend to gain a God complex and go off the rails and become unhinged and create chaos and destruction. Because who cares? And that's not good for anybody. So by that one point, the structure that's been induced by man to control the general masses is a very good mechanism. Put the fear of eternal damnation, eternal suffering and pain into people's thoughts. And unless they're psycho, because you can't account for that, unless they're psychotic, they in general will stay grounded, stay contained, and be controllable. Now, me being aware and awakened and still living by 2019 rules as a general decent human being, it's tough. I trust me, I find days that I just say, fuck it. Like I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not having a good time, right? I get it. I see that reality is artificial. I see that I'm not the sum of this vessel, and my conscious is just a memory in my brain that is just puddling along, and that memory magically goes into heaven, and it's all bliss and whatever. I have enough memories, conscious memories of past life recollection, to understand that I don't think, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't think that there's a heaven, as it were, and an afterlife. I think heaven, as we define it, is really more equated to like not even really a purgatory, but it's more of a Grand Central Station, or Grand Central Terminal, as it were, or whatever the hell it's called. That when the vessel in which we're in expires, whichever reality we're in at the time expires, we go to the way station to await for the train to the next vessel, the next life. And that could be a year, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years. What I don't know is if at this way station that we then have the ability to go back and experience life. Now, where this becomes a paradox type of effect is if we choose to go back in time to, say, the days of Julius Caesar. Do we, in this way station, get to choose which character we are in static history? Or do we have a vessel, be it male or female, that is harmonically tuned to our consciousness, and when we go back, we go to that vessel only? And again, I can say it could be a male, a female, whatever, but we're harmonically tuned to that vessel. Now, where the paradox would happen is, well, yeah, if you could go back in the past and you could change our current history, and then we would all be experiencing different things. But not necessarily, because if this is a video game, and let's just say there are different endings in the video game, we'll say that makes it different realities, right? That the outcome has been predetermined because there's, let's say, 1 billion outcomes. But 1 billion outcomes have been played out. And you may or may not have had anything to do with these events. And perhaps nobody, whether we're talking like the marathon bombers or Saddam Hussein or anyone, JFK, or anyone of any significance in our history, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, perhaps that none of them are us, our consciousness. Perhaps they are all programs, NPCs. So that no matter when you return through history, whether it be you go forward or you go backward when we leave the way station, that all we can do is experience life, experience the world as history is being played out, as a video game is being played out. Now, you could make maybe different lateral choices in there, but none that would affect the future self you. Because the reality, if you choose to go back 1,000 years, right? You could not, even if you somehow the brainwash of memory wipe failed, and you had maintained every single ounce of your knowledge from this life, and you were that conscious being, and you were like, shit, I remember this in history, I'm going to change it. And you were to, let's just say, go assassinate somebody, or go invent something, who knows, something that would change the world, the dynamic structure of the world. It would not be linked to this reality that we are of the moment experiencing. It would be linked to a different reality, an alternate timeline structure, an alternate stream of reality that is not tied to or connected to this one. And therefore, you consciously would have always gone back to that moment and had altered that past. Because you weren't actually altering past, you were actually altering present, but in a different time structure from perhaps 1,000 years ago. This is kind of where my thoughts have been meshing to, and kind of one of the things that that somewhat cemented it for me a little bit, and it's going to sound kind of stupid, is the new Avengers movie, Endgame. Right? So the only way that they can fix the present and heal the future is to go back to the past to collect all the stones. Oh, by the way, this is a spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen it yet and wants to. So if that's the case, turn the video off right now. You still there? All right, here's a spoiler. To fix the present and the future, they have to go back into the past, collect the stones, bring them back to the present, and fix their present, and bring everyone who was removed by Thanos back to life, back to existence with all the stones, eternity stones. Okay, now the only way that they can do this would be to go through time travel. But as defined by general relativity, time travel is impossible. Now, because we have our friend Ant-Man and the Pym particle, and the ability with the Pym particle to travel into the quantum realm, the subatomic particle quantum realm, and all the rules of this defined life's experience go out the window in the quantum realm. So therefore, Ant-Man projects that we can time travel if we go into the quantum realm. It is possible. Now, what they don't define in there is that when you come out of the quantum realm, that you're coming out into a different past timeline. They allude to it with bits and pieces of information along the way. And where it gets alluded to really is when he goes back and he meets the and it's Banner as the Hulk, or as the Banner Hulk, or whatever he is, or David Hulk, whatever he calls himself, goes back there and he runs into the and I can't remember her name, but she's bald and she's the one who teaches Doctor Strange how to be basically become Doctor Strange, right? And she's still got the time stone. And when she puts him into the astral plane, they have a conversation and everything else, because that way he can't affect her, he can't do anything. And she discovers that, well, why are you here from the future? And she explains to him, she's like, look, if you were to take our stone, and she brushes this time stream that you're seeing, if you were to take the stone from the past, whoop, or change any one major event of the past that affects the present, your present, you for sure can change your present. You for sure can, readjust your timeline and put it back into a path, correct the path. But you will then have created this offshoot timeline that will screw up our timeline and jack everything up. And that's kind of where the conversation stopped. She didn't say that this is your past. She just said our timeline, which alludes to the multiple reality string. So therefore, when they went back into the past through the quantum realm, they did not go back into their universal past. They went back to another timeline, unaffecting their present timeline, and potentially multitudes of timelines, right? Because here's the other thing, is in what you assume is the same timeline, but at different times in history, different dates in history. Two of them, or a group of them, go back and go to the planet where Thanos gets the first Infinity Stone, and Gamora's there and everything else, and the robot chick is with them, and she somehow links up with herself in this reality, in this timeline. They start sharing memories and everything else. And then they get the stone, they come back to our present, or their present reality. Then Thanos switches out the robot girl from the past to the present timeline, sends her into the future time, which is also a different reality, and then Thanos and his whole crew come through that time portal to basically wipe out the universe. Now, Thanos is thinking that with the Infinity Stones that he would be wiping out every universal reality. But again, what they are very cautious in this movie to not broach on is the fact that they are in a different dimension, in a different reality. That when he left his past, he actually came to a different reality's present. And that's the only way that movie could work. My wife and I were arguing about it, and the only way that it could work is because when Thanos comes from the past to the present time, which for him is, I think, 9 years in the future or something like that, they kill him. They bring back everyone he got rid of with the stones, and yet they eradicate him and his whole crew of people and aliens from existence. So that would have, though, if they were all connected within one timeline. So in other words, if there wasn't multiple string theory and there was only one timeline, by removing him from the past, from existence, it would have screwed up their present. Furthermore, the past Thanos could not have even gone to the future, because it would have screwed up the whole timeline to where as soon as he went through a time portal to come to the present, if there was within the same timeline, then what would have happened? Their reality would have changed, right? Thanos wouldn't have in the past destroyed the timeline by killing half of all civilizations in the entire universe. And because he wouldn't have done that in the past, then in their present, they wouldn't have needed to go back to the past to get the Infinity Stones to come back and fix the present, because Thanos would have already come from the past into the present, therefore would have never gotten the stones in the past. A paradox, right? But the paradox is doable if you think of it from the multiple reality perspective. In whatever reality Thanos was in, he always left that present timeline to come to the future and a different timeline and get destroyed. Therefore, in their timeline, in essence, they cured, and I don't know if they're going to bleed into this one in another movie series, but they actually cured the risk of that timeline getting wiped out, half of all the creation getting wiped out by Thanos because he moved into their future timeline, or their present timeline. It can twist your brain up, but this links back to what I was just saying before about heaven being probably a way station in which we go to, and then we can go to any point in time, space, and any reality, and experience life, and we probably do, and we get, we mind wipe when we go back, right? Because it's an experience. And now we're all sitting here saying, and this is one of the things one of my guys that I subscribe to, Jason Christopher of the I Am channel, right? That's one of the things that he talks about all the time, and I kind of agree to that. Is I didn't sign up for this, right? he says I didn't sign up for that because now we are becoming more conscious and aware, and we're like, this is kind of bullshit. This is kind of stupid. We didn't sign up to go back into a past to experience this universal shift of realities. But what he's not aware of is that this may be what life is, right? This may be what we are. That we are nothing more than this consciousness that does nothing but travel back and forth through time to experience time. Not necessarily to alter it, not to change it, for sure not to change it, right? Because if we've gone into the past and we alter the past, what we think is the past, we've always done that for whichever timeline that we're in at that moment. And then we'll live out our lives, and then we die, the physical vessel dies, we go back to the way station, and whether we choose which one we go to or we don't, we get reassigned, okay? Now that's what we don't know, is we feel we are aware, and we feel we're awakened, and we feel that at the end, when it comes to meeting the maker, the creator, getting to the way station, to heaven as we call it, that we are then going to stand up with all of our retained memories and knowledge, and at that point we're going to be what we are in consciousness, and at that point we're going to say, I'm done. I'm not going to go back. I've had my share of my experiences, and I'm done. But what we don't know on the daily, and perhaps there's someone out there that does, that has elevated themselves to a higher level of consciousness and awareness. But what we in general, even being more awake than the sheep in this car and that car and all around us, is that once we get to that way station, what innate knowledge we all of a sudden become blessed with, right? Perhaps we would discover that we are all the same. We all have a lot of shared experiences and shared consciousness, even though we may not be of each other, as far as me and Jason Christopher, or me and Richie from Boston, or me and Dranism, or anyone else in the truth-based kind of community. Maybe we were not directly living life side by side, perhaps, in any other form of reality that we were experiencing. But perhaps we are the same, and bits and pieces of that master consciousness, and that when we go into the way station, that we then communize all of our conscious structures together. Thinking of a hive collective type of process at that point. I don't necessarily think it's that way, because then that would diminish us as conscious beings as being nothing more than a worker bee going out and collecting honey for the hive collective. And if that is the case, I will work really extra hard on saying I'm done when that time comes, I run my life and I live my life to gain knowledge through experience. And that's bullshit if all I'm doing is picking that up for someone else and something else. And I'm nothing more than a backpack. You know? Containment. You know, a container picking up the knowledge and experience of what happened in past, in this Earth timeline. You know, and then here's the other weird thing is that, again, this what we're going through right now with this Mandela Effect, right, with the shift and the jump from Sagittarius to Orion spur. There's so much residual data out there from scientists and astrologers about it, as well as all of us who have that ingrained awareness memory of being back in the Sagittarius arm and now that we're in Orion arm. And that doesn't mean that you had to be an astrologist to know that. They taught that in damn school. All the way through, from elementary school all the way through to high school, right? And it's just like the moon. It's just like anything else. They just like beat it into you. You know, so if this is a physical reality that we experience versus just a construct, computer type construct of some sort, simulation construct, whatever, and we are all of a sudden within the life experience catapulting through multiple timelines and multiple realities, right? That goes with the global changes, the location changes, the human component changes, landmass changes, word changes, song changes, so on and so forth. Then it has to be, I would assume, a construct of human, alien, whatever. In this, I don't want to say this one. Back in 2008, in the Sagittarius arm timeline, that, you know, Pym particled, in essence, just to use a Marvel reference, Pym particled, quantum fucked up the reality that we were going through and split atoms. And I believe that those of us who are aware and awakened, probably made a conscious effort, a determination, or volunteered, even though we don't think we did, to come back and experience this life. You know, from being born in the 60s or 70s, or some in the 50s, all the way through till even maybe the early 90s, right? So that we could come back and experience whatever happened in this reality. And maybe it's because, and not necessarily this reality, but this stream of realities that are all seeming to be connected in some way, shape, or form. That we made that decision to come back and experience this. Now, maybe that's because us in this, in the heaven realm, are trying to figure out what's going on. Or perhaps it's just because it's a different thing to experience, right? Than just being born back in the days of dictators and emperors and gods who built the pyramids and things like that. So I don't know. It's just kind of my randomized thought of the day. So I wanted to get it out there and just hear from you guys what you think and what your thoughts are. So I know, again, I'm at a 30-minute mark. All my videos, I try to start them off with having like 50, I'm going to do 15 minutes, I'm going to do 15 minutes, and the goddamn things never last for 15 minutes. I always breach into a half an hour or more. So I'm going to bag out right here because I'm almost to work anyways. And let me know in the comments section below. I know I kind of went through a broad stream of thoughts on this one, but let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, what your thoughts are about all this, and whether or not this video resonates with you now at a different level than perhaps anything before. Again, it's not truth, it's my thoughts of reality. my conscious speaking to your conscious. My soul speaking to your soul. My awareness speaking to your awareness. Until the next video, like, subscribe, share, pass it along. Honorable mentions and all that. Spread the word. Help those who are choosing to not help themselves be aware by spreading the word, spreading our own gospel. Happy Friday, everyone.